Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Ashley. It is my honor and pleasure to welcome you to what is now the second annual program put together by Guilford College and New Garden Friends School and New Garden Meeting and Friends Homes. My name is Ara Sergiui, and I have the pleasure and privilege of working at Guilford College. And at this moment, I'd like to invite you to join me in a moment of silence. Friends, thank you. I appreciate you joining me in that silence, and silence that I hope in which we can find strength. There is a lot that is happening around us in the world. A pandemic that has taken lives and continues to affect people, their health, their well-being, their livelihoods, their jobs, their families, their homes. But also another public health crisis that has repeatedly reared its ugly head and is once again showing us just how cruel it can be, and that's called racism. To say that these are trying times really does not suffice. We are not merely bystanders. We can and must actively participate in making the world a better place. And that is why it's especially important that we are gathered here today to speak about opportunities, ways in which you can, and we can, and others can support in perpetuity the livelihood, the activism, the thriving, and the success of very important Quaker institutions in our community. Through charitable gift planning, we can learn about ways that we can invest in the future of New Garden Friends School, New Garden Meeting, Friends Homes, and Guilford College. And so I am especially glad to see many familiar faces and read many familiar names on the screen today, but also that there are others that I have not seen or met before, and yet I am certain that all of us here are united in our purpose for these four institutions to thrive for future generations, and certainly for the future well-being of our community and our city, our state, and our country as a whole. I'm going to turn it over at this time to Sarah Barker from the Friends Homes for additional components of the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ara and Guilford College, for hosting this collaborative event via Zoom today. My name is Sarah Barker, and I'm the Associate Director of Development for Friends Homes. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're so glad you're with us. I'd like to share the names of the people and their organizations who have worked to bring this event to you today. First, Mimi Blackwell, who is representing Friends Fiduciary. We are so fortunate to have her working with us on this program. Stephanie Davis and Jarrett Stoll are with Guilford College and have done just a marvelous job of helping us with all of this technical parts of this program. Charlie White and Tim Lindeman are representing New Garden Friends Meeting. We're so glad to have them here today. Liz Fleming and Ashley Raper are representing New Garden Friends School, and they have done a lot of the programming and the behind the scenes, so thanks so much to the two of them. And Marisa Ray and myself are representing Friends Homes. We're pleased to partner on this collaborative event that is now in its second year, and we're delighted that you have chosen to join us today. At this time, I'll turn it back over to Ashley Raper.
Thank you, Sarah. I really appreciate that. It is now my pleasure to be able to introduce Mimi Blackwell. Mimi is a veteran planned giving professional with Friends Fiduciary. This is the second year that we have worked with Mimi to present a planned giving program for all of you. So thank you, Mimi, for joining us, and I am going to now turn the program over to you. As a reminder, if you do have questions, you are welcome to put them in the chat box, and I will feed those to Mimi throughout the program.
Thank you, Ashley. I cannot tell you how grateful I am to be asked back to work with this incredible group. I feel so well cared for from every perspective, and the invitation is very much appreciated. I also wanted to let the larger group know how really lucky you are to have these people supporting your Quaker organizations. They are talented and dedicated, and I have to say they're my favorite group to work with, but don't tell any of the other groups. We do these collaborative events as part of the service that we provide at Friends Fiduciary, and this group really has it together, and they know what they're doing, and hopefully the tech holds out. Hopefully everything goes smoothly. I do encourage questions. If you're not comfortable with the chat, there will be time at the end. I much prefer to hear a voice, and I'm assuming we have people from all over the country with our Guilford connections, so and New Garden as well. So welcome to everybody. I'm going to share my screen, and so this is where we have the leap of faith, and it will work. Ashley, can you give me a head nod? Is it looking good? Okay, great. So I'm going to start by talking just a little bit about Friends Fiduciary. We are a Quaker nonprofit organization. We have been in existence since 1898, so we've been around a long time. We work with all Quaker organizations of all types across the nation. We span worship styles, we span the geography, size of organization, and sometimes we work directly with donors, although we do not fundraise on our own. Like you, we believe in Quaker values and having those values continue in perpetuity. As Ara shared, Quaker values at this time of being are particularly important to raise up, and planned giving is a way to do that by showing your support of those, and planned giving is a way to support those values. Quakers are not fond about talking about money. We experience that a lot, but Quakers are very fond about talking about their values, and they're devoted to those, and a gift is another way to raise those up and support them. Planned gifts are interesting because they really talk about the long-term stability of an organization. When people make a planned gift, they're not really thinking about a gift to an annual fund or to keep the lights on, or those kind of nuts and bolts pieces. They're really thinking about, after I'm no longer here to make those types of gifts, I want to show support of these organizations. So they are always coming in with kind of that higher level of the work that people want to do with these types of gifts. That said, during my presentation, you will hear some ways to make gifts that don't really fall into that kind of planned giving category, but they are kind of neat tricks and good ways to get creative, even when we're talking about kind of challenging times financially. Restrictions and rules are changing very quickly around us. And so these are just ways to think about kind of having tools in your tool belt to make these gifts and to continue your support. I always kind of raise the question, and I throw it out there for answers, but since we're in a slightly different format, what does somebody who makes a planned gift look like? And most of the time, people associate that with a certain age group. And I want to dispel that myth. You do not need to be in a certain generation to be a planned giver. And I'll highlight those ways to do that as we move through. So the neat thing about planned giving is that almost everybody has the immediate ability to do it. And the part that I like about that is that it means that somebody who wants to show support to a Quaker organization can say yes. If somebody asked me to make a gift out of my pocket right now, I'd be hard pressed to do that. I have two children who are graduates of Quaker schools and are now in college. So my usable income is not, my disposable income is not in the gift giving mode right now. However, I was recently asked to name their Wilmington Friends School, where they are graduates now, as a beneficiary in my will. I can do that. And it felt really good to do it. So I could say yes to a gift. And these are gifts that allow most people to say yes if they want to show the support of the organization. There are also gifts that can provide lifetime income, and we'll talk about that as we move through the presentation. Some of these gifts will provide lifetime income. So that's a nice bonus, and they really do allow you to feel good and to feel like you're supporting the organization that you really love and want to help. So here's an unusual planned giver. He's a youthful man, not the man part, but the youth part. And what you can do as a younger person, if you're, let's say in your first job and you don't have anybody that needs your financial support, maybe you don't have children, maybe you don't have a partner, you can name a charitable institution as a beneficiary of your retirement account or life insurance policy. When your situation changes and you have somebody that you'd like to benefit for that, you can change that. They can also be the beneficiary of a savings account or a checking account. So these are ways that somebody, maybe not fitting what most people assume as a planned giver, this is a way for them to get involved and show support. Gifts of appreciated security. This is certainly something that is in your tool belt. It's not necessarily something that is strictly designed to support a planned giving gift, but it's a way to make a gift, and it's a great way to still have some kind of bump in making that. I understand the market is still on moving its way out of kind of that U-shaped slump that we're in, but I have seen some movement upwards in the past few days. But what a gift of appreciated securities does, it allows you to avoid any capital gain when you make that gift. So the donor chooses some stock that they would like to donate. That is donated directly to the charity, and then the capital gains are avoided. It also allows you to increase the capacity of your gift at times because these aren't things that are from your disposable income, they're coming from your wealth. And so you're able to do that. The appreciated securities can also be used to fuel a planned gift. So they can be used in two ways, as an outright gift or as a planned gift. We do a lot of gifts of appreciated securities at Friends Fiduciary. It's a very popular way to make a gift, and we do that pretty effectively, I think, for the groups that are benefiting from that. It's a service that we provide. Okay, so a required minimum distribution from IRA. This part of the presentation used to look a lot different. Not the diagram, but the content. I've put required in parentheses because if you are somebody who has been at the age that would be required to take a minimum distribution, you know that this year you do not need to do that. So really it is no longer required, but it is still a nice way to think about making a gift. And the reason is because that income would not come into your taxable income. It would go from you with direction to your IRA custodian to have a gift made to the charity. So it still has some good things around it. It's certainly a great way to make a gift, and something you should, again, keep in your tool belt when you're thinking about that. But right now, it has a slightly different take, but it is still a vehicle for making a gift to a charity. It's just that you're not required to take that money as income right now. But if it's a good way to think about making a gift, and it's very easy to do. It does vary by IRA custodians, but it's typically just a form on the website. It could be a little bit more involved with varying providers, but it really is a simple and good way to make a gift. I referenced naming a charity in my personal will. It is a very simple thing to do. People, in my former life, I used to practice law, and of course, writing a will is something that lawyers are helpful in. But people think, oh, I have a will. I'm not going to change it. I don't want it. It's very simple to include a charity in your will, even if you have an existing will, or you can look for a time when you are reevaluating your will, and those come up at various spots during your lifetime. If you have children, that might be the first time that you have a will. If you have a change in your marital status, that's sometimes a good time to change your will. If you've retired or sold an asset that's included in your will, you might want to think about changing your will. And of course, if you've lost your partner and your will was set up to benefit each other, you might want to think about changing your will at that time. So there are kind of entry points to make these gifts. There's also the availability of just adding a very brief codicil to your will in most states to make that gift. Quakers have traditionally had a long history of supporting Quaker organizations through their will. I think back to a woman named Anna T. Jeans, who died in 1907, and whose gifts continue to benefit several Quaker organizations, including a Quaker hospital in Philadelphia. I'm trying to think who else she benefited, but one Quaker college did not want to give up their athletic department and their athletic teams, and they lost out on $1 million because of that. So Miss Jeans did not appreciate the competition within the school, but the school's doing just fine, and they still do have their teams. But these are, again, it gives you an idea of the long-term effect and benefit that a gift from a will can make. These gifts are still thriving and doing good work. Let's see, 113 years later. So that is the kind of true essence of a planned gift. Yeah, I'm gonna catch up with myself. So a charitable gift annuity is a very popular planned gift. And the reason is that it is designed to benefit a charity and the donor or an assigned annuitant during their lifetime. So it is one of those gifts that provides lifetime income. It's a split interest gift, which means both of those interests are balanced in the making of the gift, the lifetime beneficiaries as well as the charitable beneficiaries at the end of the lifetime payments. So this is a lovely picture, and I'm just checking time to make sure we're going through. And I was supposed to ask Ashley any questions? Okay, this is a picture of this is a scenario that I'll describe for you about a family that was very motivated to make a charitable gift annuity gift. So as you might guess from the picture, these individuals are the proud grandparents of the lovely girl in the middle, and she attended a small Quaker school in New England. It was a small and new Quaker school, and they very much wanted to show how much they appreciated the experience that their granddaughter had there and what a difference that the school made for her. They wanted to do that using a charitable gift annuity. They came in with that idea. They definitely wanted to have some lifetime income, and they most certainly wanted to show their support of that small Quaker school. In this particular instance, that school wasn't quite ready to handle the establishment of that charitable gift annuity. And so they called Friends Fiduciary. And in fact, they were on a snow day, or a snow week, as it might be up in New England. Although last time I was in Greensboro, you guys were in a snow week. But what they did was they called, and I walked them through the gift. And they very much they felt so good about making that gift. And the small Quaker school felt so good about kind of that endorsement of the experience of the granddaughter and the grandparents' devotion to wanting to have that school succeed and move forward. So what this family did was they did use appreciated securities to fund their charitable gift annuity. And we move forward. So I'm going to show you the diagram about how these work. So the donor, the grandparents, made a gift of appreciated securities to Friends Fiduciary, who then issues a contract. That is an irrevocable contract. And it's also based upon a set interest rate to give them their lifetime payments. So when the donors decided to make the gift, and they were going to be the lifetime beneficiaries, I needed to know some information from them. One, what was their age at the time of the gift? And two, would it benefit one or two people? Given that information, an interest rate is generated from the American Council on Gift Annuities. That interest rate for the lifetime payments is determined with the idea that the gift would support lifetime payments for the donors, and approximately 50% of the original gift would then go to the charity when the lifetime payments were no longer being made. So let's say the gift was $20,000, which is Friends Fiduciary's minimum for a charitable gift annuity. If that was the gift, the donors would receive lifetime payments, and I'll run you through the chart of those rates that show you what those are. And approximately $10,000 would come to the charity when those lifetime payments were concluded. In the year when the donor makes the gift, they receive a charitable deduction for their donation if they itemize. But there is some benefit to that as well. So I want to move through. I apologize. I usually have a cheat sheet on the other side. Let's talk a little bit about what those interest rates look like. I do want to note that these interest rates were established on January of 2020. They had most recently been amended in July of 2019. And before that, they hadn't changed for about 12 years. They are going to change again in July of 2020. And it will be a downward progression of approximately 0.3 to 0.5% for the change. These are the rates right now. So as I stated, we are looking at age as our factor and how many lives will benefit during the lifetime payments. So as you can see, if you're 70, 75, these are typical ages for making a charitable gift annuity gift. These are typically individuals who are retired or close to retirement. They understand pretty much what they're going to need to support them in their retirement. And so they're in a great position to really kind of understand how these lifetime income payments will affect their disposable income and what they are able to support as a gift as well. So these rates for one life, it would be 5.1% of the $20,000 gift will be paid each year. It is irrevocable, it is guaranteed. We oftentimes, in a gathering that I do in New Jersey, there's always somebody there who has done a charitable gift annuity, and they always affirm that those payments arrive. Typically they're paid quarterly, sometimes they're paid semi-annually or annually, and people can elect that. But the rates are set, and they are set at the time that the gift is made. So it is really designed, as I said, to benefit not only the annuitant, the person receiving the lifetime benefits, but also the charity who receives the remainder at the end. Ashley, I'm going to stop. Do you have any questions? No.
Any questions yet, Mimi? Keep going.
Okay. So, so I want to say, as I talked, I'm going to go back a slide. When I talked about the 50% remaining going to the charity, in our scenario, it would be $20,000, excuse, half of $20,000, $10,000. At Friends Fiduciary, we are experiencing approximately 63% of the original gift going to the charity, which can make you feel good because you know that you're receiving your lifetime benefits, and also that the charity may get more than that 50%. I will say that Quakers and particularly individuals who live in Quaker retirement communities really have a great, great longevity. I cannot tell you how many Quakers have very long and happy lives, and those residing in the Quaker retirement communities. I will share with you a brief story. I got a call from a charity that knew one of their donors had passed away. And the phone call started like this. I'm calling from Quaker organization. And I said, okay. And she said, so-and-so passed away. He was 107 years old. He was cross-country skiing until he was 105. And I said, wow, that's an incredible life. And she said, Andy had a charitable gift annuity. And I have to say, when I realized all of these factors, I thought, I wonder if there's any money left to give to this Quaker organization. And interestingly enough, there was, even though that gentleman had far exceeded what anybody expected as far as his lifespan. The gift still did what it was supposed to do. And he did receive payments, all of the, I think he had the gift for about 20 years. So the gift does work, and it does really follow what donors want to do, which is ultimately support the Quaker organization as the remainder beneficiary. Another type of gift that does not provide lifetime benefits to the donor, but is a great, again, tool to have in your tool belt, particularly during these times, is called a donor advised fund. So I call these people the happy couple. they just look like life is good and they're in a great spot. So this happy couple decided that they had a plan for their charitable giving. They had a 10-year plan, in fact. But each year, if they had just done their gifts outright to the charities that they wanted to support, they were not going to reach a level of being able to itemize their charitable deduction. So as I said, they had a plan, and their plan included a certain amount of charitable donations each year. So what they did was they looked at their 10-year plan, they looked at their assets, and they decided to establish a donor advised fund to support that charitable giving over a 10-year span. What it got them was the ability to itemize their charitable deduction in the year of the gift. And this particular happy couple did use appreciated securities to make that gift, which also meant that they had the bonus of missing out on capital gain tax because the funds go right into their donor advised fund. So I'm going to show you a diagram about how that works. So again, the donor can use cash or appreciated securities to establish a donor advised fund, and Friends Fiduciary does offer them. Lots of places offer them, but I will say that we are very careful about reviewing any donor recommended grant to a charity within the process. So how this works is I'm the donor, I've established a fund, and I want to make my first grant recommendation. And that grant recommendation is to Guilford College, one grant, one is to New Garden Friends School, one is to Friends Homes, and one is to New Garden Friends Meeting. That is not atypical to see several Quaker organizations being benefited by one donor. It's actually more typical than atypical. So this donor has 4 grants to make. The next step is at Friends Fiduciary, we take a look at those grants and we say, are these in line with our Quaker values? Well, in this case, that question is very simple because all 4 of the entities are Quaker organizations and they have the ability to receive donations from donors. So our vetting is done at that point. We have had grants being recommended where they're not aligned with Quaker values, and we would point that out to the donor. That doesn't happen a lot. We also review to make sure that the grant is going to, we did have one instance where one of the recommended charities was not a 501c3. It could not accept charitable donations. And actually the donor then decided to work with that group to reestablish that status. So it actually was a win-win, but we couldn't approve that grant. But basically the donor relinquishes control of their money to the fund, and then the donor continues to make recommendations about where the money should go. Very infrequently are those recommendations not approved. And as I said, even when we ran into the situation where the charity was not able to accept donations at this time, it was kind of a win because the donor is now working with them to do that. You get a charitable deduction the year the gift is made, and you can also, again, avoid capital gains. So this is really a neat way to support multiple charities. In the instance of Friends Fiduciary's donor advised funds, those can be Quaker and non-Quaker as long as the non-Quaker charities are aligned. It's also a great way to talk about philanthropy within your family. Oftentimes families will establish a committee to be the donor advisors, and also to have the next generation succeed the original donor advisors. So it really teaches, it can teach your young adults in your family and even your younger children about giving by involving them in finding a charity, it might be somewhere they volunteer and want to have some greater financial support of. So it really is a way to involve not just maybe the donor or the donor and a partner. So they really are, they got a lot of donor advised funds, got a lot of attention when the itemization of charitable deductions became a harder bar to reach for a lot of people. And they really talked about bundling these gifts in a year to achieve that, but also not forgetting that you make these gifts to support a charitable organization. And oftentimes those charitable organizations anticipate gifts from certain people. So if you've been a consistent $100 giver and all of a sudden, you're not giving that in a year, that would be unusual and probably not feel good for you as a donor. So the donor advised funds allows you to advise a grant, to recommend a grant that during the years when you're not making the charitable deduction. And I'm getting probably a little confusing on that. I'm going to stop and see if there are any questions.
Yeah, Mimi, we have a couple of questions just on terms that you've used. If you maybe could give a brief explanation on some of those terms.
Yeah.
So there were 3 terms that people are asking about for a little bit more explanation. One of those is capital gains. Mm-hmm. They'd like to know what that is. Appreciated securities and annuity.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
I'm writing it down. Okay, so I also I had a question about appreciated securities when I started working at Friends Fiduciary. And if you're not somebody who is a stock market follower, or you might not own securities at this time, or you might own them and not know that they're part of an investment that you have. So stocks have value. When you buy them, and you'll hear a lot, stocks that have high value, like Google or Apple, these are really stocks that have, to buy them costs a lot of money per share. The idea is that usually you buy a stock to hope that it will increase in value. So let's say you bought a stock for $10 5 years ago, and now it's worth $15. That has appreciated in value. It's gone from 10 to 15, so it's a $5 increase in value. You pay tax on the increase in value if you would sell that stock to make a gift. But if you don't sell it, but you donate the actual stock to a charity, you don't have to pay tax on that $5 on the increase in value, because it's not coming to you and then to somebody else. It's going directly to the charity. So that's why appreciated just means increase in value. Is that helpful?
I think that was a good explanation of that. And if you have additional question about that one, just send it to me in chat and I can go back and ask Mimi, follow up with that one.
And so that also addressed the capital gain issue, because you're gaining a value on an asset. That is where you incur capital gains. So that increase, that $5 increase would be what is incurring the capital gain. And that's what you avoid, the tax that you avoid when you directly donate those either directly to a charitable organization, or if you use them to establish a donor advised fund, because they're going directly, they're not coming into your pocket. You're not selling the stock, getting the money, and then making the donation. It's going directly to the charitable organization. So that capital gain tax is what you're avoiding in those instances. And the last question was about annuity. So annuities are, they're basically a contract. There's really not a better way to kind of summarize them. A charitable gift annuity is a contract that guarantees the annuitant, which is oftentimes the donor, the person making the gift. Sometimes not, but oftentimes, and most likely it is, but sometimes not. So it guarantees the donor lifetime benefits, and it also is designed to have the remainder at the end of those lifetime benefits go to a charity. So the annuity, in the sense of a charitable gift annuity, also allows you to get a charitable deduction for your contribution in the year the gift is made. So I equate annuity with contract. There are commercial annuities, I will point that out, that are not designed to have money left at the end to be a charitable gift to an organization. And those will pay higher interest rates, but they're a different being. They are also contracts in the sense that they're a commercial annuity. They will guarantee you payments, but their payments are only guaranteed to cover your lifetime. There's nothing that's built in to make a gift. And so when you decide to do a charitable gift annuity, to establish a charitable gift annuity, your intent is to ultimately benefit a charitable organization. And that's why people choose them. They also need that lifetime income. So it's a calculation that people make when they're choosing to make that gift. But basically, it's a contract. And I think I stated it's an irrevocable contract. That's a lawyerly way of saying there are no take-backsies on these contracts. They are set and they are firm as of the date of the gift. So, and you get a formal piece of paper that is the contract and sets out the terms and is signed by both parties.
Great. Thank you, Mimi. We do have one more question.
Yeah.
Regarding CGAs in page 10, is the percent draw off the original gift amount, or does it change as the balance changes each year?
So no, it does not change. And so that's one of the terms of that contract that's irrevocable and unchangeable. And it calculates off of the gift amount.
Great. Thank you. That's it for now, Mimi.
Okay, great. And so I actually wanted to tell you a little bit about Friends Fiduciary's investments. When you make a planned gift through Friends Fiduciary, this is the added bonus of working with Friends Fiduciary. And this is really where the Quaker values are highlighted in what we do. I will say this, I think I said before, I practiced law before I entered the world of Quaker work. I was a head of a small Quaker school in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And then I moved to Friends Fiduciary in a planned giving role. So I have much more development focus in my work than I do investment management. But I will highlight some pieces that I think are very informative and indicative of the work that we do. So if you would choose to do a charitable gift annuity, while that is an active annuity, it would be resting in funds at Friends Fiduciary, and it would be subject to the screens and work that I have highlighted here. So At Friends Fiduciary, we look at how we invest our money, and we have managers who do that for us. And these managers are well-versed in the screens that we have, and we also review the choices that the managers choose for us. So what we do is we have a list of, let's say, 100 shares and stock that we could buy. We screen those, and we screen out any company that deals in weapons or weapon components, alcohol and tobacco, coal, casinos and lotteries, and for-profit prisons. So I think it's pretty clear how this correlates to our Quaker values. These are things that we absolutely have zero tolerance for. Other investment managers will screen, but they might have a comfort level. They might have a comfort level that, 5% of our company's work dealing with weapons is okay. Ours is zero on the negative screens. We do have a fossil fuel free fund, but right now our Quaker Growth and Income Fund, which is where planned gifts would typically rest in a fund managed similarly to that, is coal free. So our list shortens. We started with 100, let's say we're down to 80 choices now. Of those 80, we then do positive screens. Who is working best from an environmental, social, and governance perspective? And we're looking for those better actors, and we're choosing from that group. So we're even getting a smaller list of potential shares to buy. Once we own that stock in a company, this is where our work gets very interesting. And Kate Monahan, who's a graduate of Quaker Voluntary Service and Haverford, is the person that does the work of this primarily in our company, along with Jeff Perkins, our executive director. But once we own the shares, we are owners of that company, no matter how small. And we do partner with other groups to do this work, to make our shares not so small, and to have a larger voice, a louder voice at times. But we engage in dialogues and work with the companies that we hold to make them the best actors that they can be. We oftentimes call dialoguing a win, and a withdraw of our dialogues as a win if we're seeing progress from those companies. So we've worked on issues of food waste, lobbying, mountain coal top removal. We've worked closely with these companies, and these are larger companies, Comcast, PNC, Cracker Barrel. So we're engaging, and we are making a difference. And so when you make a gift through Friends Fiduciary, that gift is helping this work as well. So there's a kind of a socially responsible benefit to making your gift with Friends Fiduciary and having that work being done, and you can feel good about that. I will say, at least once a week, if not more, we are asked if we will work with individuals on an investment management basis. And that is not something we do right now, but based upon the amount of questions we get about it, it's something that we examine closely, continually. But right now, making a planned gift through Friends Fiduciary is the one way an individual can benefit from our investment management strategies. So again, this is not my true area, but I understand the value of it, and it does make a difference in it does provide, it provides good solid investment management and successful investment management despite the screens, which is oftentimes the questions we get. How can you take all those people, all those shares and companies out and still be competitive? And we absolutely are. Yes, question?
Yeah, we're continuing to get questions in the chat. I'm also getting some from the Friends Homes living room that are coming in. So I just want to address a few of them. Some of them are related.
Mm-hmm.
So the new rates for CGAs will be available on 7/1 for both 1 and 2 life CGAs. And they said that they were unsure if this was the case for both types. Can you clarify that? That's when those rates will be available?
Yes. In fact, they are available now. It just seemed confusing to provide both. So I will say they are available for 1 and 2 lives. They always calculate both of those at the same time. I can share a modified chart with the new rates that follows this one that can go out to people who have participated, if that would be helpful. They're also available on the American Council of Gift Annuity website. But again, the change would be a lower rate of approximately 0.3 to 0.5. And that's what we saw when we shifted from July of 19 to January of 2020. So it'll be a similar shift, but they are available now and they are calculated.
Wonderful. Thank you. Another question is from Gary. He says, I understand that SoftBank has initiated a fund for minority-owned companies. Do you know and use this?
It's a SoftBank?
Yes.
Can you read the question one more time? That they've initiated a program or a loan?
It says, I understand that SoftBank has initiated a fund for minority-owned companies. Do you know and use this?
No, I am not aware of that, but that does not mean that Friends Fiduciary at some level is aware of that. We do, under our positive screens, when we choose to hold and own shares in a company, do look at governance very closely and social issues very closely. So from a governance perspective, a good example would be, is the board diverse? Does it reflect our country, and or is it, you know, not diverse? So we would prefer, obviously, to work with companies that are in tune with, you know, what is the right way to govern and different voices coming in. So, and from a social perspective, you know, how are employees treated? What benefits are they receiving? So I think part of the issue of supporting minority companies would come into our work under the positive screens and certainly through the shareholder advocacy. But as far as the program that you've referenced, I cannot say that I'm aware of that.
Yeah, and I think it just was released this morning, if I'm not mistaken. I think I read it this morning that they started a $100 million fund to help minorities of color within the United States. So I'm pretty sure that's what he's referring to, and I think the press releases just came out this morning, or maybe it was yesterday. But
I have to say, I was so nervous about the tech piece of this presentation that I didn't look at the news this morning.
Yep. So totally fine. So another question from Gary is, what does Friends Fiduciary do with renewable non-carbon based energy companies?
What do as far as, do we hold those companies?
It just says, what does Friends Fiduciary do with renewable non-carbon based energy companies? I don't know if Gary, if you want to give a little bit more clarification on that. I think probably in reference to like the screenings that you were talking about and stuff like that.
Right. So we have two funds that differ in various levels. So as I suggested, our Quaker Growth and Income Fund is coal free, zero.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah. Hi.
Hi, Gary.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I was asking about sort of generically wind and solar based energy generation and whether or not Friends Fiduciary is focusing on investing in those companies.
Well, in our green fund, we hold no fossil fuels. So in order to have an energy component to that, we would probably be looking at those. There are other factors that go into evaluating the shares that we hold, and they're constantly being evaluated. So I could say, yes, today we have X amount of those types of companies, and tomorrow or the next day, it could be a different number. So in order to fund the green fund, in order to buy and invest for the green fund, we are looking at totally fossil fuel free. On the Quaker Growth and Income, we are coal free at this moment. But I will say also—
The green fund.
Excuse me?
No, I was just talking to my wife. I'm sorry. I thought I was muted again.
No. So Quaker Growth and Income, and I will say the green fund it performs differently than the Quaker Growth and Income Fund without those fossil fuels in it, because right now our world is still dependent to some extent on fossil fuels. We are, as a board, the board is always evaluating how to make the Quaker Growth and Income perform at its level, and more, and removing even the coal, hopefully at some point. But until performance and business interests can be balanced, we are offering the Green Fund into organizations that are interested in not supporting any type of fossil fuel. And I was going to say, Gary, I always go into the caveat of this is what I know, but there are people at Friends Fiduciary that know much more about the management and the investment of funds on a day-to-day basis. And I'm happy to connect you with them if you'd like to learn more.
That's great. Thank you, Mimi. One more question is, they said, please ask Mimi to discuss how to use a donor advised fund to leave a legacy gift for nonprofits, and if that's possible through Friends Fiduciary.
Yes, it is. So the donor advised fund, like the charitable gift annuity, you can name a charitable beneficiary for the remaining funds in that donor advised fund, if there are remaining funds when the advising period ends. So that's one way. The other way is a slightly different gift and I'll use a quick example because I'm just keeping an eye on time and I want to open it up for questions if somebody wanted to not use the chat feature. But another way to do that, I'll give you an example of a small Quaker school outside of Philadelphia. A member meeting actually, a meeting member, excuse me, a meeting member very much wanted to support scholarships within that school. And they established an endowed fund for that school with the income distribution on an annual basis going to the school for scholarship. So that fund currently holds $200,000 in it, and it's distributing at 4% annually to the school for scholarships. So it's getting very close to supporting one student per year at the school. And as the fund grows, the income distribution will grow. So it's in perpetuity for that school, and it's held by Friends Fiduciary. So we also have a fund like that that supports the Friends Center for Racial Justice in upstate New York, supporting their programming. So that the bulk of the gift stays, but the income is distributed. So it creates an endowment for that entity, if that entity, doesn't have one yet, or in addition to an endowment that it might have. And that's not a gift that was discussed in the presentation, but it is included in the this listing of instruments that I have included as one of the slides.
One more question, Mimi.
Yeah.
I know you're going on to the next slide, and then we're going to open it up. Skip asked, does nuke power pass the fossil-free test as the most energy-dense, non-CO2 producing fuel known to man? Does nuke power meet the Friends criteria as clean power?
Well, if I were a college professor at this point, I would have been bested by the student. That if I could get that, is there a way to transcribe that question to me, Ashley, from the chat? And I will get that answer to you by Rich Kent, who's our Chief Investment Officer, excuse me. In law school, we would ask if we could pass on that question. Can I use my pass? That's a very detailed question that I would absolutely be happy to refer to Rich, and he would definitely get back by email. Oh, Ashley, you're on mute. Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead. I'll send that to you in an email.
Okay.
And that way you can get that addressed, and then we'll get Skip the answer.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Great question.
Yep. You can go ahead. I think that's it for all the questions right at this moment.
Okay. So I wanted to say I typically really much enjoy prefer being in person. And I'm sorry if it wasn't as fluid as it could have been in person. And I hopefully have given you information and not caused confusion. I'm a phone call away, as are the very talented people who support these Quaker organizations, to help you with any questions. I do believe that this presentation, the PowerPoint, is going to be shared. And I'll open it up for any other questions you can call out.
Again, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask questions directly. If you're more comfortable just putting them in the chat, you can do that as well.
Apologies for getting on a half hour late. I had trouble with the sign-on credentials. But my question is this: on a charitable gift annuity, can individual meetings, I'll just give an example, New Garden Friends meeting, could our meeting have its own CGA, or does it have to require a large organization like the National Friends folks?
So the neat thing about charitable gift annuities, when Friends Fiduciary is supporting an organization, any organization that is eligible to get charitable donations can have a CGA that names them as a beneficiary. So absolutely, a meeting could be the remainder beneficiary. The meeting itself, it would be an individual who establishes the charitable gift annuity. So let's say a meeting member wants to benefit the meeting in that way. They would be the person to establish the gift annuity, and then the meeting would be the beneficiary at the end of the lifetime payments. And we've had several of those.
But again, the national organization would receive the funds, and then they would just disperse them to the meeting. Is that how it would work? The local meeting?
Most local meetings have the capacity to have them come directly to them. Could you explain to me what you mean by national organization? Are you
Well, the Friends in Philadelphia, or somebody that runs the Friends, the National Friends organization, whatever it may be called.
Oh, so Friends Fiduciary would disperse the money to the meeting. So
Okay.
In the contract, the CGA contract, it contains who the person receiving the lifetime benefits would be, what the amount of the lifetime benefits would be. Again, those are fixed. And then it says who's the charitable beneficiary right in there. So although the gift is made to Friends Fiduciary, it always goes to somebody else. So if it was New Garden Friends meeting, it would say it right in the contract, and that's where it would go.
Okay, well then just again to reiterate what was said, the July 1st is a significant day for folks that might be in the CGA giving mode. And if you're going to do that for individual benefit, it would be best to do it before January 1st because of the lower interest rates.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I have a couple more questions, Mimi, coming in from the living room at Friends' homes. Are there costs involved in setting up a DAF, and are there minimums?
Out-of-pocket costs, no, not to the donor or to the Quaker organizations that benefit. Yes, there are minimums. So on the donor advised fund, it needs to be at $25,000 before grants can be made. And that can go over a 3-year period. But again, some of the benefit of the donor advised fund, sometimes people are trying to achieve that itemization for their charitable deduction. So you'd want to make sure, if you're trying to do that, that you do that in at least one of the years to achieve your $25,000 mark. On charitable gift annuities, it's a $20,000 minimum gift, and payments start at 65 years of age. If you already have a charitable gift annuity with Friends Fiduciary, it's a $10,000 second gift. or third gift. People are oftentimes, I call them repeat offenders, and I much appreciate them, as do the Quaker organizations that they choose to benefit. But once they get the feeling that, yes, this money comes in quarterly, it's a set amount, I can rely upon it, and as each year goes by and they look at their finances again, oftentimes they make a subsequent gift, and that's why the minimum is lower on the subsequent gifts.
Wonderful. A couple of other questions. They want to know how Friends Fiduciary judges technology stocks, or do you just ignore them?
Oh no, they would, we would look at technology stocks. It would just be, we'd do our screens.
Okay, great. And can a local meeting hold an annuity that is handled by Friends Fiduciary, but proceeds go to a good cause?
Oh, so I've had this question, can a meeting be the beneficiary of the quote unquote lifetime beneficiary of the funds? Is that what the question is?
That's what it's looking like. So can a local meeting hold an annuity that is handled by Friends Fiduciary, but the proceeds go to a good cause? So it's, what I'm wondering is, like, can they go ahead and set it up, but as it's paying out, it's going to
Another charity?
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with that is what's the age of the meeting? So the charitable gift annuities are really based upon a lifetime. What are those lifetime payments going to be? And then to have the 50% approximately remaining for a charity. So using another organization as the quote unquote lifetime beneficiaries, it would not allow those calculations to be made. However, there are different ways to do that. A meeting could establish an endowed fund that then had the income disbursements paid to various. They could use it as a grant, kind of like a grant making piece, that they could do some social justice work.
There was a little bit of clarification. Betsy said, no, if there is a bequest to a meeting, can proceeds go through Friends Fiduciary to another group?
Well, I guess my feeling is the meeting could also, I think I'm missing some of the nuance in the question. So I apologize for that, because but if a meeting receives a bequest, the meeting is eligible to get that donation. So it comes in as their funds. The meeting can also make a donation to another group, as long as the bequest isn't restricted in use. So a bequest in a will, oftentimes it will say something like, to give an example, when I included my kids' school, I said Wilmington Friends School. Whatever they need, they can use it for whatever they need. Other individuals, and in particular in a lot of the Quaker bequests I've seen that benefit a meeting, is it will say to benefit, and a lot of times it's the cemetery fund.
Mimi, I unmuted Betsy. So Betsy, I don't know if you can ask a question and maybe get the clarification you're looking for.
Yes, thank you. And I'm actually, I'm a guest on this call. I'm a member of the Richmond, Virginia Friends meeting. And I have moved to Chapel Hill recently to that meeting, but the question comes out of a bequest that was made with no information at all to the Richmond meeting. And it took us 3 years to figure out what to do with it. And there was a lot of discussion, and I think it's finally resolved, but I'm just thinking here, could we have possibly worked with you in the beginning to make that whole selection process smoother?
Yeah, we definitely could. And it's funny because you moved from Richmond down to, did you say Charlotte?
To Chapel Hill.
Chapel Hill. And I forget, but one of the local meetings near Chapel Hill also had a bequest come in and was trying to discern what to do with that. We definitely could help you in any way. When I make a presentation like today's, I'm donor focused, if you're interested in learning about these gifts. But when we work with meetings, we definitely, and schools and any type of organization, we value the partnership, and any way that we can help you, we will branch out. And, you know, just because it's not something we talk about a lot doesn't mean it's not something that we can help you with. And so definitely would be more than willing to talk about, you know, do you want to invest this and make it for a certain purpose? And we can definitely help you with that.
Thank you.
So I know we need to wrap up. We're at our hour time mark. We're a little bit over. I think that there was one more question that I saw come in. If we could address that, and then if there's additional questions, you are welcome to send those in. We're gonna go to our contact page here in a minute. You're welcome to email them, and we can get them answered in writing and get them back to you, or you're welcome to email Mimi directly. The last question that we're going to do while we're on the call is, what are the minimums for remainder and lead trust gifts?
No. So those are kind of I call them the big dogs of charitable giving, because they really only make sense when you're at a certain level from the investment and the administration of them. So they have a little bit more complexity in the establishment as far as the documents and what's needed for the trust documents, but we recommend that those gifts be around the $500,000 mark. Just for those reasons, because they are complex and there's administration that goes with them. They're typically managed, the investment management that goes with them as well. So
that's perfect.
They're not for everybody, but they are for some people, and they are good gifts. And I recommend, when you're looking at a gift like that, or really any gift that you're thinking about establishing for the first time, really consult with your tax preparer or your attorney or your investment manager, because you want to make sure that how that gift affects you personally is right. And at Friends Fiduciary, we're here to support the gift making, and we don't evaluate, you know, is this the right gift for you? We will raise some red flags if we're hearing things that would, in a typical situation, make it not the right gift for you. We certainly wouldn't issue a gift that we felt was not in somebody's best interest. But we don't do a deep dive on your investment and tax issues. We just let you be aware that this may happen. So I always recommend, and not to say that any gift is on any gift, that needs to happen on an individual standpoint, but yeah, around about the $500,000 mark is where those gifts, the charitable lead and charitable remainder trusts, would need to come in.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Mimi. Just to kind of close out the presentation, we're going to ask Tim Lindeman to come on and say a few closing remarks at this point.
And it won't let me go to the next screen. Hold on one second. Let me see if it will do it this way. There we go.
Hi, everybody. I just want to thank everyone for their attending today. And as you can see on the screen, here are the different contact people. And you will be receiving the recording of this, this session. And if you go through it and you have other questions, you can contact your primary connection. I know a lot of you are connected to more than one, and some of you to 4 of these. And if you're thinking about doing joint or triple contributions, you can contact Mimi directly if it's uncomfortable to tell, for example, Dugard and Friends, that you want to share something with Guilford College. So you should be getting that later today, and it has all the contact information to whom you can write. So thank you very much. Thanks, Ara. Thanks, Mimi. Thanks for the organizing committee, and especially the people that attended today.